Yeah. Hey, let me call in order the March 25th meeting of the Albany County Legislature's Public Works Committee. Majority Council Kenny, would you take the roll call?
Sure. Ricard.
Present.
Mayor was excused. Cleary.
Here.
Fine. Andrew Joyce.
Here.
Reinhardt. Here. Whalen.
Here.
Bergdorf.
Here.
And Smith.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome two legislators to this committee. I didn't get a chance last month. Legislator Gillespie and Legislator Whalen. Welcome to this committee, so,
Thank you.
okay? Majority Council Kenny, would you, actually,
The first item is the previous minutes.
did everyone have an opportunity to read the minutes from last month?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 2 is authorizing a lease agreement with the Integrated Technology Group regarding suite number 21 at the MVP Arena. Bob Belber is here this evening.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. So this is a new suite lease, a new company coming into the building for the first time. They'll be taking over for Hanush and Old Brick in suite number 21, which is located, generally speaking, behind the stage when we have an end stage concert. The price on the suite lease, on this suite lease, as well as others that will be coming up for renewal hereafter, are going up from 51 to 54.5 because of cost of living increases and 2 cycles now that we've had it at 51. So we'll be bringing in more revenue for the county as a result of the increase. And this company has agreed to the 54.5 per year for 3 years. Technology Group Integrated Technology Group is a good company. We've done some background on them, and they provided the deposit, and they're prepared to go forward and accept the lease terms from May 1st going forward.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators have any questions on this item?
Motion.
Mr. Cleary makes a motion. Mr. Berger seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 3 is authorizing an agreement with Direct Energy Business regarding the purchase of natural gas for various county facilities. Executive Director Gaudio is here this evening.
Thank you.
Welcome, Director.
On behalf of the Energy Advisory Group, we are requesting a contract with Direct Energy for the supply of natural gas to various county facilities. This contract was selected through the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance program, and Direct Energy was the preferred vendor for natural gas supply. The contract will be broken into 2 different types of accounts. The monthly accounts have a cost of 41.9 cents per MMBTU. Contract term is November 1st, 2026 to October 31st of 2027. The daily accounts, which are the larger accounts, which include the 2 treatment plants and then the correctional facility, have a basis cost of $1.77.6 per MMBTU. And the same contract term of November 1st, 2026 to October 31st of 2027. These costs that are outlined are for the basis cost of the transportation costs. We will be dollar cost averaging the supply costs over the next couple of years to try to take advantage of any market dips with natural gas.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators, Mr. Berger?
Angelo, the daily price is about 4 times the monthly pricing. Can you explain how you decide to buy which of what?
Yeah, so we made a decision to buy the basis cost because there was a dip. The current basis cost that we're currently paying now is $2.14. And right now, the one that we locked in for that term is, again, basically $1.70, I'll say $1.78 if you round it up, per MMBTU. That cost and the reasons it's so much more than the monthly accounts is because we basically have firm capacity, which basically means it's an uninterruptible power or gas supply. So that's why there's such a big cost difference in the 2 accounts, is because, again, with the correctional facility and with the treatment plants, we need to make sure that we have a continuous supply of gas. So that's really what you're paying for. You're paying for that essentially premium to make sure that you have that supply at all times. So in terms of when we decide, we meet with basically a representative from Direct Energy on a monthly basis. sometimes more. And they basically give us a market analysis and they track market conditions. And when we feel that there's an opportunity to take advantage of kind of lower pricing, we take it, which is the case for this contract. Again, we are taking advantage of roughly a 17% reduction over our current basis cost.
So how many times can we do that in a contract? Now, this is 26 to 27, so you're taking advantage of dips in the existing contract, because we're in 25.
Yeah, so they're authorized through Mega, so they just got re-upped as the selected vendor. So that's why we're taking advantage of it at this point, because prior to that, their contract had ended in 26. So basically, with the renewal of the Mega program, we were able to take advantage of the fact that they were the selected vendor for those outlying years. So that's why we kind of chose at this point. Again, especially since there was a dip in the pricing, we figured we'd take advantage of it now. Things are getting a little interesting just with tariffs and such on the energy side, so we just figured we'd take advantage of the dip while we knew it was in front of us.
What will be the overall savings from that dip?
Well, again, there's a 17% reduction just in the basis cost, so we'd probably be taking advantage of a 17%
Okay.
savings. I don't have the dollar value.
Okay.
Our budget is roughly $575,000 a year, just for the 2 treatment plants. I don't have the correctional facilities numbers, but, so we'd be looking at 17% off of that number. is
Okay,
what we're
great.
estimating. So.
Is there any other questions by the legislators on this item? I just have a follow-up question on that. It was something Mr. Berger said, and we followed up on it too. So if it goes below the $1.70 during the next year, would we get it go lower than that or no?
So we're locked in on the basis
That's
cost,
what I
which is
thought.
basically the transportation. We still have a supply component to the
Sure.
cost. So really what we're gonna look to do is take advantage of dips on the supply side. So really the supply plus the basis will make up the final unit cost back to the county for the actual value or cost back to each department.
Okay.
So that's the piece that we just don't know, and again, that'll fluctuate. We're right now between $3.50 to about $4.25 dollars per MMBTU on the supply side. So again, we're hoping to take advantage of some recent dips. There just was a pullback probably within the last couple of weeks, so hopefully we can kind of get that closer to that $3.50 per MMBTU mark.
Well, I appreciate you doing that, try to save money. That's a good thing, that's positive. So if there's no further questions, we sort of like to make a motion on this. Mr. Berger makes a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Opposed? Item carries unanimously. Please read that.
Item 4 is authorizing an agreement with Waste Management Greenfield RDF regarding leachate processing at the Water Purification District's North Plant.
Thank you. So this is a contract renewal with Waste Management, formerly Finch Waste, for the service of leachate treatment for them. The way this contract is structured, there is a annual fixed fee of $22,000 per year that basically reserves the right for them to discharge leachate to us. On top of that, we charge them 2 cents per gallon of leachate that they discharge to us. Last year, they discharged approximately 8 million gallons of leachate to us, and with the annual fee of the $22,000 plus the amount that they had discharged, we took in roughly $190,000+ of revenue from them. So really looking to renew that for the additional year, which was really a contract extension. We are having conversations with them for outlying years to modify the price. So right now, we charge them 2 cents per gallon for leachate. They are an out-of-county entity, so we are looking to increase that to at least 3 cents. So those discussions have been had, but because we were still within a renewal year of the contract, we opted to take advantage of that, and given that it's kind of mid-year for their budget, we opted to offer them that 2 cents for the remaining year of the contract.
Thank you. Do any legislators have any questions on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I know there's a lot of concerns about the leachate coming to the Water Purification District with PFAS and other chemicals, and then it gets discharged to the Hudson. And so I'm wondering if we are doing anything to address that as part of this contract, and also, does this come from a specific landfill?
Yeah, it's the Finch paper, the old Finch paper landfill. Again, it was bought out by Waste Management, so the new name's under Waste Management, but that's so it's basically a paper landfill, so that's the material that we're pulling in.
And where does it come from?
It's in Saratoga County.
Okay, and I know we passed a few years ago a resolution about testing the leachate for PFAS. Do you know, has the leachate from this landfill, from the Finch Waste Management landfill, contain PFAS?
I think there are smaller amounts of PFAS. The higher valued PFAS are actually coming from Colony landfill and from the Albany landfill, just because they're the larger landfills. So generally, based on the data that we have, the higher concentrations of PFAS compounds are coming from those facilities. We can provide that to you. That has been provided to the legislature, so you should have that data already, but we can certainly make that available if you don't have that, in terms of the PFAS concentrations.
Yeah, thank you, it'd be helpful to have
Yeah,
just the most
it's
updated numbers.
it's just so you know, it's our industrial users, which we have 13 of, and then it's the landfill facilities. So we take in leachate from 4 landfill facilities, so it's really that grouping that we're testing.
And how much total do we expect to make off of this contract?
We're estimating about 150,000 off of this contract. Last year, we took in, again, just over 190,000. So again, it's based on 2 components, the fixed component, which is at 22,000 annual, but then we also charge them based on the actual amount that they discharge to us.
So 150,000 for the year?
Yeah, that's what our estimate is, yeah, and hopefully we can, we'll be a little bit higher than that.
Okay.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators? Mr. Reinhardt?
Yeah. Sam raised the issue of the contamination of the leachate. It's basically a very toxic material regardless of where it comes from. It can be more toxic, I think, from a municipal source, like a municipal landfill, probably because of the heavy metals. I don't know that Finch Prine had a lot of heavy metals in
Yeah, I don't
the
know.
process.
Yeah, I don't have a constituent listen from.
But basically, this issue is connected to the biosolids issue, because it's what you call biosolids that comes out of your plant. This is what goes into the biosolids. The leachate is one of the major contaminants that causes the problem and has destroyed farms when they put the biosolids on their farmland. So if you look at the cycle, we've got the waste, it goes into the landfill, it goes into the waste treatment plant. The waste treatment plant has biosolids, free fertilizer for the farmer, but then it destroys the farm. That's what's happened. And, you can look at the very nice film that was made about this called Growing Broke. It's about the farmers who are at the tail end of this process and they get destroyed by what they think and what DEC and EPA told them was a good material, good fertilizer substitute. Don't have to spend so much money on fossil fuel fertilizer. But turns out, destroyed the farm, destroyed the land, becomes toxic, can't grow, not allowed to grow food. Anyway, it's a very bad story. I am not going to support any project where we take leachate into our water treatment plants, because we are contributing to this problem. Yes, it's not the only source. There are other, water treatment facilities around the state that might decide to do it instead. I just think we should not be getting paid to take waste that is not designed for a purification plant, because it's not. It's designed for organic waste. It's not designed for the heavy metals. It's not designed for the PFAS. This stuff either sits in the biosolids, some of it stays with your material and then contaminates that. Some of it goes right through into the Hudson River or into the Mohawk or wherever the treatment plants are. We should not be doing this. That's my opinion now. We have the science to know how bad it is. We didn't realize it when we first, when EPA and DEC said it's okay, it's a good source of fertilizer, nutrients, et cetera. It's not. Now we know, because we've seen the evidence of how it destroys farmland.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of comment specific to our process. First of all, there are organic loads in leachate, so there's usually a high ammonia load. So our process is equipped to manage that. So we process organic material through an aeration process where you oxidize, your organic material. So that would be the ammonia load. As it relates to metals, most of those get settled out. You get lashed to the sludge, I think, as you're kind of alluding to. Again, we still incinerate our sludge. So in terms of, I guess, the unit processes that are typical of wastewater plants, I think we're somewhat unique, and we do have a benefit because, again, we are incinerating that material. So we landfill our material currently, so that ash material, which is the byproduct of our incineration process goes right to a landfill. So we are not contributing to any land application of material. Again, I understand the concern, specifically to PFAS. I'm not trying to dismiss it, but I think as it relates to kind of the material that we're bringing in, I do think we're somewhat insulated from the situation and kind of the conditions that you kind of outlined, because again, we aren't contributing to any land application or any contamination of farmland that might be tied to either PFAS or heavy metals. So I just want to put that out there because I don't want there to be a lot of, misconceptions about what we're doing, and certainly I don't want to be considered basically a source of contamination in the area, so.
Do any other legislators on this committee have any questions on this item?
I do have a follow-up comment.
Any other legislators have any comment? Let me get to Chairwoman Cunningham and then we'll get back to
Yeah,
you.
I'm gonna actually follow up on Bill as well. So, just so I understand what you just said, so the biosolid material that comes out of the leachate, you're saying you incinerate that and you have a capacity to do that it gets rid of all the bad stuff, the heavy metals, whatever.
So the incinerator basically will incinerate or combust all the organic material, so basically what's left is the inert materials. So
Okay.
there might be some metals in our ash product, but again, that material goes right to a landfill. So it's not being
So
disposed.
that goes back into somebody's landfill.
Right now, it's Albany, at least for the next
Right.
couple of years, and then it most likely will be, either looking at, we are looking at Finch for a potential alternative, or even maybe Colony.
Okay, so the other problem I have, and it's exactly kind of where Bill was going, is the leachate, the biosolids are one byproduct, and then the water goes essentially there. We're not processing, we're a wastewater treatment plant. We deal with things like E. coli and all that kind of stuff, but we are not equipped to deal with PFAS that stays in that water product, are we?
Again, we do not treat PFAS. Again, any PFAS treatment would occur through the incineration process. But again, any PFAS compounds that would get latched to the sludge would go through the incineration process. Anything that would remain soluble would go out.
And do we know if there's PFAS in what's left that's going into water sources, right?
We have done limited testing. There is some. It's on a very small, I'll say, concentration.
Okay,
Below,
And-
basically what the standard is currently.
okay, and that's testing for PFAS.
Yeah, and then just on the testing side of it, we will be embarking on testing this year. So we were just reissued our effluent permit or speedies permit through DEC. That was just issued earlier this month. As part of that permit renewal, we will be doing quarterly sampling, which would include PFAS testing on our effluent. So we will have more data, probably within, I'll say 12 months from now, but we're doing the first quarterly testing. The other side of the permit that I just want to make note of is every 5 years, we are required to do basically toxicity testing on our effluent waters. Historically, we have not had any issues meeting toxicity levels. So even though there might be other constituents that might get discharged to the river, there has been no identifiable toxicity.
Including PFAS.
Yeah, so what they do is they measure toxicity against microorganisms, so there hasn't been any inverse impact to the microorganisms based on previous, toxicity testing. We actually just did, we're starting that this year as well. We just did our first quarter sampling, I believe yesterday for that. So we'll again have results on that, soon, at least for the first quarter, but we'll be doing that for the remainder of this year. So again, if there's any concerns there. But again, historically, we've had good success meeting those standards.
Thank you. Bill, you want to do a quick follow-up question, and then
Well-
Legislator Whalen's got a question too.
Maybe mine would be better to go first,
Whatever you want.
and then
That's
you're
fine.
more of an expert on this, so you can
Whatever.
follow. What is the upside of doing this? I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are revenues involved, right? I don't know if it's profitable for us after we go through all of the process of cleaning the leachate up, but that's my one question. But then, is this also something that we like to engage in because we get to control the process, so it's not worse if it goes off to someone else?
Well, I think the value to us is that, again, it is a revenue source. So I think if you look at it on an annual basis, not just with, Finch or, waste management, but the other three that we take leachate from 4. So, Albany is a no cost because we have an arrangement where we send our screenings to them and we get the leachate from them. So there's a mutually beneficial arrangement there, but we take in roughly $600,000 a year.
From all 4 places, or
Total of
just
all
this
4,
one?
but it's really 3 that are paying. So between Colony, Finch, and Dunn, those are the 3 that were charged.
So 600 a year from the 4 is like the net revenue, the gross revenue, and then you have to,
That's total revenue, yeah.
but then you have to clean it all up and do all that stuff you were just
Right, but we're an
describing.
enterprise fund, so again, we basically, any revenues that we take in offset our charge out rates to the communities. So the amount of money that we take in directly offsets any other expenses that would be borne by the 8 communities that we serve.
So that's a good thing, we make money, right? So,
We make
Okay.
money and it helps us keep our rates, lower than they would be otherwise.
and we get to control it, we get to control this process, which might be good, right? Because where else would it go? It could go, if we didn't do it, what would the other options for these folks be to send it
They'd have
where?
to they'd have to, find a home for it, so.
And where would they sit, like, what, do you know where they would send it, or?
I don't think Rensselaer's taking it, I'm not aware that Saratoga's taking it, otherwise they probably would have been going to Saratoga because it's closer. It'd probably be somewhere else, I don't know, it would be central New York.
So it's, at least we get to control the process, because which is good,
Yeah,
it's, we're
I
Albany
think
County
you-
and we're great,
right.
right?
So
So,
I-
and you're great.
Well,
It
thank
could-
you for that.
It could, I mean, we're like, it's like the
Well,
best of the worst here,
I think
maybe, right, or no?
well, it's reciprocal, right? So again, landfills take our material and we take their leachate. So if basically we shut that down to the point where if we stop taking leachate in, there might be a condition where landfills no longer take our material. So there's kind of a tick for tat kind of scenario there. So I do think the material does have to go somewhere, both on the leachate side and from the biosolid side. So again, most of these agreements are, mutually beneficial between the landfills and the treatment plants. And just to bring up, again, we don't generate these materials, specifically the PFAS. Again, we are the receivers of these, as are the landfills.
Right.
So, you're looking at for-profit companies that are using these products, but now it's getting kind of pushed down to the communities and the municipalities that bear the cost of managing those products. So I do think that needs to be taken into account when we start looking at legislation, limiting kind of the acceptance of those materials.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to give a quick follow-up, because Mr. Berger's got a question too.
I'll try to be quick, probably won't be. Nevertheless, we don't know the toxicity of some of this stuff on us, on humans. We know that it, affects microbes a certain way, there's toxicity tests, as you said. But to me, the issue is there are other waste treatment plants that are starting to not accept this material. I think the one in Kingston is one in New York, there are others. I think one of the reasons is, you mentioned legislation, there's liability here, perhaps, or maybe will be, for what we put out of our pipe or what we, dispose of. Once it comes through our process, we are now responsible for the toxic materials. That could happen if it's not already in law. I am worried about the future liabilities that we have by taking this material. Now that we know it has various things in it which don't get treated, which do pass through, I think we're opening ourselves up to future problems. To be very blunt, I think no water treatment plant should take this material, and we should force the for-profit companies to deal with it themselves on their dollar, not on the taxpayer dollar. And it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Okay, you have stuff that goes to landfill. Maybe it's the landfill that has to treat it on site instead of trucking it around and putting it into the water and then getting it into our rivers and then getting it into our air. There are also issues, I think, of incineration that we don't know all of what comes out of the pipe. We do know that PFAS is called a forever chemical because it doesn't get destroyed by heat, except for in very specific circumstances, which was one of the problems Norlite had. So we don't know, because we're not doing a gazillion tests for every chemical that's in the landfill waste. We could be putting out both metals, which some of them get volatilized and can go up the stack. So we could be putting heavy metals into the air. We probably are putting PFAS into the air. They say it's acceptable levels. Well, acceptable levels might mean one thing if you're a plant. If you're a human and you bioaccumulate certain things in your organs, that may not be acceptable. We may learn that it's not acceptable. So I guess my point is kind of like, I see this as a do no harm issue, where we think there could be risks. We know there are certain risks. Do we really want to continue this practice? I think we should not be doing this at any waste treatment plant anywhere. But since I'm on the county legislature, that's where I'm going to say no. But it shouldn't be done anywhere, in my opinion, until we have better information about what's actually going on and what kind of contaminations we're causing both in air and water and soil.
So,
Please state your name for the record, Mr.
hi,
Susan.
Cameron Sagan, with the County Executive's Office. I mean, I wanted to be clear here, we're not downplaying the risks associated with PFAS, heavy metals, or anything like that. But I think you bring up a good point, and I do want to just clarify something. We are adhering to all DEC regulations when it comes to what is being discharged. So I want that to be clear for everyone, for the record. We test this stuff, and it is in compliance with DEC. You're right, it would be great if PFAS isn't in the system at all. And I think you're right that it shouldn't happen anywhere, but that's a DEC responsibility, quite frankly.
And they blew it.
And
They
the
blew
fact
it.
that.
They said
look,
land application is good, and look what happened. Now you got farmers out of business.
And we agree with that, but at the end of the day, this is a system where you're saying you're not gonna support any of these, like a key functionality of local government, you know, when the gears are turning right now and you're, you know, a $600,000 hole punched in the budget. So I think these are conversations that need to be had, and we are having them with the majority council and legislators. But I think we need to think broadly here and think strategically and know that we really need the state's assistance when it comes to addressing this issue in the long term. Albany County can't fix this on our own.
No,
And
but
if
you know what?
it's not
If we
coming
don't
to us,
stand
it's coming
up,
to
if we
someone
don't
else.
stand up and say something, the state's never gonna change their position. This is how democracy works.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sagan, well said. Mr. Berger.
There's a misapprehension going on here that I'd like to correct for everybody. This is the Albany and Colony landfill that are creating this leachate, which comes from every community in Albany County, because the Albany landfill has the members of the old Answers community, which is Bethlehem and Guilderland, and I think that the two cities. So if you say you want to stop this element of the process, because before it was Albany taking his landfilling, it was Colony for how many years, Angelo? 10, 15 years?
Yep.
So there has always been a partnership between the Answers communities and Colony to take everybody's waste, take the leachate out, the best technology for getting rid of leachate, for getting rid of all as many of the byproducts as we can, is incineration of the solids, and then landfilling them in a landfill that is duly permitted to accept that waste, which is what you have in Albany and Colony. So if you say, no, I don't want to do this, understand that the $600,000 has to be made up by the county, but in addition to that, all the waste from Bethlehem has got to go somewhere. And it's no longer going to go at whatever the tipping fee is, $50 a ton. It's going to go to Virginia at $400 a ton. And everybody's private waste bill is going to go up dramatically. So I just don't understand how we can sit here and say, we shouldn't do this anymore, because nobody certainly understands, maybe other than Angelo, the unintended consequences of doing that. And I take that from the county executive's office as well. We have environmental monitors in the form of EPA and DEC that are creating standards. Not everything is perfect, but when you get 99 and 999% billion out of something, you're doing pretty well. That is the best alternative that we have for technology today, and it recircles our own tax dollars in Albany County
All right.
and saves our residents money.
All right,
And
I
with
think-
that, I would move this.
Okay, okay, so I think we talked this item ad nauseum. Paul, would you like to make a motion on
I'd
that?
make a motion.
Do I have a second on the item?
Second.
Ms. Whalen seconds, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Not I.
No.
No. Okay. So the motion carries 5-3.
All
Would you
right.
please- we're gonna go out a little out of order now. We're gonna go to the 15th item on the agenda. Could you please read that?
Item 15 is designating Albany County as lead agency for the purpose of State Environmental Quality Review Act regarding projects at the Albany County Water Purification District, North and South plants.
Thank you. So we're just seeking lead agency designation to move our capital projects forward. We've got two projects identified as the South Process Improvement and North Process Improvement projects. Most of those are identified as replacement in kinds of systems, but we are seeking EFC funding, and they are requiring that we identify ourselves as lead agency for those projects, so it's just that request.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators have any questions on this item? Someone like to make a motion on it? Mr. Cleary makes a motion. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously. Thank you, appreciate it.
Item 5 is authorizing an agreement with Johnson Controls Fire Protection regarding fire sprinkler and alarm testing for various county facilities. Commissioner Latino is here this evening.
Good evening, Chairman. We issued an RFP out for annual testing and fire inspections. There was 4 qualified bidders, and Johnson Control was the lowest responsive bidder. The total cost of this contract is $200,000. It's $145,000, $830. And then we added $54,170 for repairs not covered under the 3-year term contract.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators have any questions on this item? Someone like to make a motion on it? Mr. Berger makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Leskey seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously. Please read
Item
6A.
6 is authorizing an agreement with Almighty General Contracting regarding demolition of the 52 Howard Street garage.
Yes, an RFP was issued for this. Almighty Contractor was the lowest responsive bidder out of 4 bids. The total cost is $214,500, $195,000 plus a 10% contingency allowance of $19,500 for 52 Howard Street. We're going to take the top deck off of that garage over there and make a surface lot right now.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators, Mr. Cleary? Making a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Do any of the legislators have any other questions on this item?
I have a question.
You do have questions?
Dave, is this C&D waste? Is that what it'll be? Concrete, steel?
Yes, concrete, steel, decking. There was, we did Alpine did a survey on there of any kind of hazardous materials that was done. So we're taking the top deck off. We gotta cut the steel on the bottom. We have to fix the one wall. I don't know if you noticed on Howard Street, the one wall is caving on there. We'll have to put another retaining wall on there, and we'll put new fencing around there.
Any idea if they're gonna recycle any of the construction debris, or what the?
Usually, most of the companies do recycle the steel and stuff and concrete.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do any other legislators have any questions?
Yeah, just quick question. Is this for county parking?
Yes, it will be for county
So,
parking.
this
So
is
the
gonna-
legislators can park there at night when they come in. Good for meetings.
But this is gonna help with the shortage issue
Just
and
one
all the
anyway.
stuff that we're dealing with.
Yes.
Park right behind the building.
Okay, thank you.
The chair will not be commenting on what you just said there. Good comment, though. Mr. Cleary made a motion. Do I have a second on that motion? Mr. Bergdorf seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right,
Item 7 is authorizing an agreement with Eckert Mechanical regarding the chiller replacement project at the MVP Arena.
Yes, this is for a backup chiller for the arena. There was eight bidders on this project, and we actually put this out twice because there was confusion on which chillers we had to use. So it came back with eight competitive bids. And Eckert Mechanical was the lowest responsive bidder at $1,052,225. At the initial bid is $956,568. When you add a 10% contingency allowance for any unforeseen conditions for $95,657.
thank you. Do any of the legislators have any questions on this item? Somebody like to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Mr. Cleary seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're gonna go a little out of order now. We got one more item. I think it's item number 14. Is that correct?
Correct.
Item 14 is authorizing a utility easement agreement with NIMO Power Corporation regarding the location of a new utility pole on property located at 24 Martin Road in the village of Voorheesville. Commissioner?
Yes, 24 Martin Road is the co-op, Cornell Co-op, and we were requested for an authorization for National Grid. They want to put a pole on our property in order to feed the school for EV charging stations, I believe, for their buses.
Do any of the legislators have any questions on this item?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Cleary makes a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Mr. Reinhardt seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously.
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Item 8 is authorizing an agreement with Allstate Construction, DBA Gorman Construction regarding paving on Coal Hill Road, County Route 2, in the towns of Bern and Westerlo. Commissioner Raimondo is here this
Welcome,
evening.
Commissioner.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yes, this is our yearly cold and place recycling contract. Gorman has been doing the work for us for over 20 years. They do a very great job. We're going to be recycling 4.8 miles on County Route 2. And the contract amount is not to exceed $741,736.10.
Thank you. Do any legislators have any questions on this item? Somebody like to make a motion on it?
I have a question, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
I know the bridge at the bottom of Coal Hill is slated to be
Yeah.
replaced. This is above that.
So actually, it's slated to get replaced, but we believe it's not going to happen until next year.
Okay. So
Yeah,
this,
so there won't be, it actually does conflict with this paving, but it's gonna happen next year instead of this year.
okay. That was all. I'll make a motion to move it.
Do I have a second? Mr. Bergdorf seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously.
Item 9 is amending the 2025 Department of Public Works budget regarding the Quiet Zone project for the village of Voorheesville.
Yeah, so this request is for approval to reappropriate $247,545 and to rename the budget line into which it is going in. We just want to add the suffix quiet at the end of it, just so it makes it more clear in our budget that this special project is for the quiet zone.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators have any questions on this item? Mr. Reinhardt?
When's it gonna be done?
I knew that question was gonna come, and I actually have some answers. So it actually could potentially be done this summer, if all goes well. We're still waiting on a revised contract from CSX for maintenance. But according to CSX, if all goes well, they could potentially be constructing it toward the end of the summer.
Good.
Yeah.
Is there any other further questions on this item? Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Reinhardt makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Cleary seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Item carries unanimously.
Item 10 is authorizing an agreement with the Capital Region Transportation Council regarding an Americans with Disabilities Act evaluation and transition plan.
Yes, so we were awarded money from CRTC for an ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. The county has to come up with $2,000 and CRTC is giving us $20,000. They're going to administer the consultant contract on behalf of the county, so we're not necessarily accepting grant money into our budget. Award of this grant will assist us with developing a list of physical barriers on our sidewalks and trails, and outline methods to utilize or remove those barriers, and set up a schedule of when those items will be completed.
Thank you. Do any of the legislators have any questions?
Is this enough money? Seems like a low amount for the scope of work that's involved here. I mean, we have a lot of trails.
So it does look like a low amount of money, it is in the big scheme of things. However, most of our sidewalks and trails are ADA compliant. So what we're gonna find more so is just like, some of the detectables are gonna need to be replaced. There's like a couple of areas where there's gaps in sidewalks, but we'll be okay with the 20,000.
What is the detectables you allude to?
For the blind, the circular
the-
detectables that are.
The bumps
on
you
the
feel
hill.
with your feet?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Is there any further questions on this item? Someone like
Only
to
a
make
comment, good.
Would you like to make a motion on that, Mr. Reynolds?
I do, yes.
Do I have a second? Mr. Russell, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously. Please read the eleventh item.
Item 11 is authorizing an agreement with Creighton Manning and Surveying regarding on-call engineering consulting services for various bridge, roadway, and culvert projects.
Yeah, hi, so this is, this is a bid that we put out for engineering services for projects that just like happen to come up that aren't necessarily designated as large projects in our capital plan. So for example, we could have a traffic signal that goes bad, and rather than having to take the time to go out and get price quotes from consultants, this will streamline things so that we can write a contract directly with Creighton Manning for that they'll give us a quote. They've already submitted us their pricing for all of the different services that they can supply us for. And they'll give us a quote, and it makes it so that we don't have to make the process take 3 months versus, when certain things need to be done sooner rather than later.
Thank
Is
you.
that,
Would any legislators have any questions on this item? Someone like to make a motion on that? Okay, makes a motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Carries unanimously.
Item 12 is authorizing an agreement with Colliers Engineering and Design, Architecture, Landscape, Architecture, Surveying regarding on-call engineering consulting services for various parks and recreation projects.
and this is a similar contract. We received 8 proposals. Colliers had competitive unit pricing and demonstrated the capacity to be able to take on extra work on an as-needed basis. So whenever, Parks and Recs project might come up that isn't 100% scheduled, we'll have the ability to enter into an agreement with Colliers for doing that work.
Thank you. Would any legislators like to make a comment on this item?
Just a quick question. If Colliers is asked to look at something and they say, oh, we don't really have the right expertise for this little part of it.
Yep.
Does this agreement allow them to sub out to get that expertise, whatever it is that they might need?
It does. So all of the proposers, they had to give us, if they couldn't do it, they put subs in and quoted prices for the subs. So like surveying would be one of those items, or geotechnical services. Some of the consultants don't have those services in-house, and so they put in their proposal who their sub would be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further questions on this item? Somebody like to make a motion on it? Mr. Cleary makes a motion, Mr. Reinhardt seconds, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously.
Item 13 is authorizing an agreement with Highway Rehabilitation Corp. regarding hot-in-place asphalt paving in the town of Westerlo.
Yeah, so this is the second year we're gonna be doing some hot-in-place recycling as opposed to cold. We're doing that on County Route 408 in Westerlo. We're gonna be doing hot-in-place on approximately 6 miles. We use the hot-in-place process over cold-in-place when the cracking isn't as deep in the roadway. The process heat scarifies the asphalt and adds an emulsion to it, and then that recycled product is reapplied to the roadway, and then we come in and we top it off with 2 inches of asphalt in our hauling and placing contract.
Sounds good. And make sure we get an invite this summer.
Oh, yeah, for
I
the,
mentioned
yeah,
that to you last year.
Yep, will do.
So that
Thanks.
sounds like a really cool process, and
It
we
is.
won't get in your way, or your staff's way, so.
Okay.
Do any of the legislators have any questions on this item? Someone like to make a motion on that? Mr. Gerber makes a motion, second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner. That concludes, business for the evening. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion.
Clary, second by Mr. Reinhardt. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good job.